What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2, and we are going to play around with that freshly nerf-batted plasma defense system. We're here on the Coral Reef Town Elemental Rumble Hard Mode. Now, just to give you a look at what I did with my PDS, basically, all I did was re-roll the Godly Roll to range. This freed up a shard slot for me. I still get to the range cap. It is going to require using diffusion on a buff beam and a range pylon, but that is going to get you to the range cap. So defense range Godly Roll with crit chance, defense rate, and anti-melee. And as I mentioned, that frees up a third shard slot, giving you an option to do whatever you want. Now, what shard you use here is kind of depending on what you want to set up. In my opinion, I think Mass Destruction and Plasma Echo are no-brainers. We are always going to get those in right away. And then that leaves the third slot. So you've got three real choices, in my personal opinion. Of course, you can throw Destruction in there for that Mass Destruction and Destruction double stack. You can use Power Transfer to get your crit damage jacked up a little bit. Or you could even go with like Plasma Burst if you wanted to add in a little bit more AoE damage. Now for me, with the PDS, I'm mainly focused on the single target. I don't really feel like I need the AoE. And deciding which is better between Destruction and Power Transfer is going to 100% just depend on how much crit damage you have on the tower. So what you're going to want to do is build out your build like you normally would, and then look at your crit damage. Between 110 and 111, let's just say 111% crit damage is going to make a gilded power transfer equal to a gilded destruction. So if you have under 111% crit damage, you're going to want to use destruction. If you've got over 111% crit damage, then power transfer would work out mathematically to be better. Now, additionally, of course, I'm always talking about whether you're boosting or not boosting. I personally love boost builds. I loved it in Dungeon Defenders 1, I loved it in Dungeon Defenders Awaken, and I love it in Dungeon Defenders 2. That's how I personally prefer to play the game. So I boost a lot. However, not everybody does boost a lot, and lots of people want to play fully AFK as well. Which, of course, means you're not going to be boosting if you're AFK. Now, with that, this setup still works out, because if it is going to be a map where you're full-time boosting, you just get rid of diffusion. Get rid of diffusion, stack in more crit damage, or damage for that matter. Like in this situation, for this map, we could use All for One in there. You could get more crit damage in, do whatever you want there in your buff beam, but you're still going to hit the range cap if you are boosting it out full time. Now, let's go ahead and build it. I've got all of my pylons, of course, on my werewolf, so I'm using werewolf general, range pylon, and destructive pylon. We have got diverse crit damage and diverse crit damage with a crit damage Godly Roll on our buff beam, and we're going to be throwing in some boost auras as well. Now, I'm still using defense range on my boost aura because I traditionally like to use it for slow, and I don't always have All for One. However, you're going to get more power out of it if you just use crit damage instead. So this is what I'm going with for this one, though. And then, of course, we are going to keep Power Transfer on our Plasma Defense. Biometric Scanner, the nerf to that was really nothing. This shard went from 33% to 25% gilded, which is just nothing. Of course, it still adds on to the base Biometric Scanner debuff, and that is just an absolute trivial nerf. But let's go ahead and get things started. I did switch around how I would build this one. Normally, I build everything on this side of the core. Now, I am building on this side of the core. So, trying to get a little bit more range into these lanes back over here. So, we're going to get our pylons down. And, of course, before we would have used 10 plasma defense. Now we're only going to be able to use 6. We can actually use 7, but I'm just going to use 6 as I like to have the safety of some reflect beams in there as well. The main thing the PDS nerf did was all it did was make the maps take longer to run. You can still do the exact same or very similar builds as you used to do. The only difference is the maps are going to take a little bit longer. Of course, you don't have range, so enemies have to get into range before your PDS is going to work, and, you know, that's how it is. So we got 6 poorly placed PDS here, and then we want to look at our range so we can decide where we're going to put our Plasma Echo and our, our biometric scanner and our Water Aura. Now, very, very important on this one that you don't put stuff up too far forward. Where here, of course, we get that range right in the spawn. But one thing we don't want happening is we don't want to crowd control enemies outside of the range of the PDS. So when we look at this lane over here, the closest PDS is going to hit about right here. Or, pardon me, the furthest is going to hit right here. And the one that's closest to this lane is going to get to right here. So with that in mind, I don't want to put my biometric scanner way up there where I previously would have put it. I want to put it back here, make sure that the enemies are going to be in PDS range, and I'm going to bring my Water Aura back as well so it is in range of everything up there. Now, if we take a look at the lanes up top, we can see where our PDSs are reaching to. This one is pretty similar to where it was before, where I was placing them. However, I am going to go right about there. We're going to get our biometric scanner down, and then we're going to get a Water Aura in the mix as well. Now, we got 100 DU left, so we could throw down another PDS, no doubt about it. But what I'm going to do is give a little bit of diverse to my buff beam and my boost aura. And I'm just going to add in a little bit of protection versus ranged mobs. So I'm going to go something like this. I'm going to put a reflect beam here to help my core out from any ranged mobs that way. And I'm going to put another one here just to protect the core from any ranged mobs over here. Of course, with the range being nerfed on the PDS, those ranged enemies are going to be getting closer. Now I got 50 left. Once again, I could have put a 7th PDS in, but instead I'm just going to pump the diverse mods here a little bit further. So I'm just going to add in a Water Aura and a Frost Strikes Aura right here, just to get a little bit more action on my diverse. All my upgrades for the first wave are going to go right into the Boost Aura, and we're just going to let it fly. Now, this is not going to be as AFK and chill as this map used to be prior to the nerfs. There's no doubt about that. So we're going to want to boost it out. I'm just going to kind of, it's still going to be pretty much a brain-dead run. Not going to lie. I'm not doing anything. I'm just chilling right over here. But I am going to occasionally boost these towers as enemies start to push closer. So I'm just going to keep an eye on what's going on. Additionally, the more you boost, the faster enemies are going to die, which also means the faster the map's going to run. So if you do actively boost, you're going to clear it a little bit quicker, but realize that the main impact that this nerf had to the PDS is not in its power or in its DU cost or anything else. It's purely in the range. It just takes forever to run maps if you use it. So, I mean, I think that alone would really, in my opinion, brick the PDS more than any of the nerfs would. The range was just substantial, and, they're just not going to reach out there. It still has all the benefits that it had before. It shoots through walls, does not require line of sight, but it's just got some serious baby range to it. There is no doubt there. We're going to sit here and boost it out. Hell, I'd have been happier if they made it 80 DU if they want to bump the range. But that's just me. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What would you have rather seen knowing full well, which everyone who used the plasma defense system knew full well it was only a matter of time, as it was just, as I mentioned in the previous video, instantly the most powerful thing in the game, right out of the gates. So with that in mind, we knew there was going to be some sort of change to it. What would you all have rather seen for a change? Or are you happy with this one? I mean, to be honest with you, I guess I'm not too terribly dissatisfied with this one. I do really like the PDS thematically. I like playing on boost builds. So with that in mind, I'm still going to use them, but I'm not going to use them as often as I would have used them before, just because of how long it takes for maps to run. Now, this map previously, pre-nerf, without a doubt would have been 100% full AFK. 10 PDS, same everything else. 100% AFK. We would not have had to even look at anything. We're not going to be able to have that same experience. Now, I didn't let anything get close either. So if I wanted to, like, truly AFK it out, I could have tried AFKing it out, I guess. But I just didn't want to take any risks. So I'm just going to... I got my buff beam and my boost star fully up now. I'm just going to slap upgrades around and just let it fly. And pretty much from here, all we're doing is upgrading. And that's another aspect, like, not for survival so much, but, playing an expedition or playing an elemental rumble map or an onslaught map. When you had 10 PDS down before, you were never going to be able to get them all upgraded. There just was not going to be enough mana available to get that done over the course of a normal run. And now that we have less of them, we are going to be able to get them upgraded. So we've got that going for us too. Of course, I'm trying to look at the positives and not focus on the negatives. And there is some positives with the change, More power per shot. They didn't mess with the line of sight or the ability to shoot through walls or anything like that, which, that is what would have truly bricked this defense and made it so it was right in the trash can and never used again. And the slow run times are really the only downside, really. That, of course, is all just tied directly into the range, but we're on Elemental Rumble. We're playing a lazy-ass turtle build, and we completely ignored what elements were in lanes. So, with that in mind, it still has that functionality that it used to have before. The only difference is you're going to have to boost, at least when there's a big push coming. And additionally, just the maps take too slow to run. Now, if the lightning tower was 20 DU and didn't do any damage, but just sped up enemies, that would completely resolve this problem. We would have some lightning towers, Tesla coils, up around over near the spawns, getting all of these goblins in zoomer mode. But we don't have the DU to work with for, to make that happen. Now, there's also some really, really incredible changes that you're going to want to check out. The jellyfish, for one, the range buff on that was absolutely insane. Particularly considering it was really, really good before. Now it's really, really, really good and shoots all the way across the world practically. So that is one that you're definitely going to want to take a look at. I'll be playing around with them, no doubt. Jellyfish for the win. No doubt there. So we're just going to keep blasting away. Here with the range so short, I'm very hesitant to use any knockback. Like, of course, this initiate is set up for knockback, but if I shoot and I knock that Malthius back, I might knock it back out of the PDS range. So I have to be very conscious of that. If you wait till it gets to a position like right there where you don't really have to worry about it as much, then that, of course, is just much, much better. Alright, so we got our boost aura already upped. Our buff beam is already up, so we can just slam everything into these. Just going to spam them around, and we'll let it fly here. fact, we could grab a little of this loose mana and maybe get one more upgrade in. There we go. We got one more of them in there. That's one of the big differences between Dungeon Defenders 1 and Dungeon Defenders Awakened compared to DD2 is there's no difficulty modifier that expects the enemy or that affects the enemy's movement speed. These guys just walk all super slow. Of course, if you're playing on this difficulty in DD1, every ogre that came out is like in full-on Zerg mode, going right to the core. And in DD2, of course, it takes about 17 years for him to get there, so it's the only downside. I really think it is. I mean, you know, obviously, I like the PDS. I do recognize the fact that it was crazy over the top, but I did really like using it. I like it thematically. I like the boost builds. I like to chill. If I personally am wanting to play like a shooter or a very active game, then I'll play either an ARPG or I'll play a game like Warframe or something like that to get my shooter action on. When I'm playing a Dungeon Defenders game, I like the strategic element more than anything else, and I personally want to really focus on my towers. So I know that is not the general opinion of everyone, but I'm entitled to my opinion, and that is mine. I just enjoy the tower defense element. See, now we got a big old group coming in over here, so I'm definitely going to want to boost it out when these guys get a little closer. In fact, I think I could have moved that water aura back a little farther even. It looks like most of the electrocutes are happening inside of PDS range. This particular lane right here would be an absolute dream for Plasma Burst as well. The mobs are just bunched so tightly right there. Actually, they're bunched pretty tightly on all the lanes on this map, to be honest. Plasma Burst might be a little bit better than using Power Transfer for a little AoE clear. Everything getting just blasted. We just have to wait for it to get here. Now, the right mix on a map like this, of course, is, you know, nobody says we can only use one defense and we have to use just PDS. So, you know, I haven't even looked at the elements yet. Let's look at the elements. But if the elements allowed for it, having some jellyfish over on that side of the map would be absolutely incredible. These are going to take 25% storm damage, so that wouldn't help having the earth lane, but having the water lane over here, oh man, a jellyfish right here? Or two jellyfish would just blast. And that would also save you a little DU. Out of everything in this update, though, the one thing, or there's two things that, in my opinion, you should definitely not ignore. And I'll probably do a video on both of these separately. But one of them is the jellyfish. The jellyfish are just, the range buff to it is crazy. I mean, I'm amazed that they threw it in even. It's that good. And then additionally, the North Pole polearm. The monk can come out of retirement and no longer be your little booster and can actually be a main character again. So the North Pole is quite nice with the changes to that. The North Pole does have that really crappy shot type that has got that lob. And that's the only negative thing. It's for people who want to play close to mid-range. If you like the close quarters combat but want to play a ranged character, the monk is going to be the one for you. We're going to be freezing entire lanes and putting out really good DPS all at the same time. I even debated on putting 2 stacks here, but that of course eats up even more DU. And I did want a buff. So if you're going to boost, of course the more you can have in one area, the better off you're going to be. But oh my god, look how slow they're walking, for God's sakes. Tesla coil would definitely save the day here to speed those baddies up. That lane just gets slapped. Actually, to be honest, I think this is the only lane that's not full AFK. I'm pretty sure that top lane would be automated, and pretty sure this lane would be automated. Just from what we're doing here right now. But this double lane over here with the big straight stretch could give us a few problems if we just completely AFK'd it out. Actually, now I think we'd be able to AFK it out because we've got so many upgrades in. We'll see if we can't AFK the final wave. No boosting. See, I used my pet ability a little bit too far out of range on there. So I CC'd a pack of mobs that weren't in range yet, and that's just no good. Just about there. We just gotta wait for these flyers to get here, and then these guys to get here. In fact, I might give them a little assist. See if we can't knock them a little bit closer. Get them away from the pole. There we go. Alright, so we got him knocked in, and then we got one flyer that's either stuck or taking its time. Looks like it is taking the scenic route. No doubt. Alright, so wave 5. Let's slam these upgrades in. We're just gonna spam them. Looks like that's about as good as it's gonna get. We'll get an upgrade there, and let's see if we're able to just chill in at least wave 5. That would at least give us a little moment of refrain where we're able to step away and do something else if we wanted to while we're on the hard grind here. But I'm not sure. I may need to boost. We'll find out here. The DU cost, of course, is a major factor as well, because like on this map, you know, and like I said, I could have used 7 here, but I chose to use 6 and take the protections instead. But, you know, I was using 10 on this map in, you know, pre-nerf, so that, of course, is a big damage loss. Not having 10 of those guys blasted out there. Oh, crap. And I boosted. I wasn't paying attention. God dang it. Alright, we'll try the final Zerg anyway. That was the one mob to check. We'll still get some mini-bosses here. Likely to come out on this side. But as we can see just with the runtime of this video, of course I blathered the way at the beginning of the video for a while, talking about different ways to set up. But this is not a speedy run, you know? This is not a run that's... When you're hard grinding something, you've got to look at your runs per hour. Now, if you don't care and you want to play as AFK as possible, or as just chill mode as possible, then this is still an option here for you. But the maps are just going to run so dang slow, you know? So we got the Water Mage rolling on in. I think the Water Mage is going to make it out of the anti-heal. So yeah, so I think that was a situation where I probably should have boosted, as that Water Mage is just going to heal up. Yeah, and there goes the Water Mage healing. Let's just go ahead and boost. I don't feel comfortable with leaving it. I was right in the back there. The Water Mage Commander will be back into range here pretty quick. Just not quite there yet. So yeah, no love there. And here we go. In fact, I think I might even want to just sell a Water Aura and drop one down there on top of it. Just to make life a little bit less painful here. We can get our pet on him too to get a little bit of a damage boost there. But yeah, I think we're just going to need... We're going to need a Water Aura down there. Actually, they might have been almost in range. Alright, we got our Water Aura down. So yeah, definitely not the super chill mode that it was before, but still very, very usable. I never looked at that lane or that lane to even see what the elements are. So if you want the brain dead, spam it down build, you can still do it. But you are going to have to pay attention a little as the waves run. Now that, of course, is just an example on this map. You know, there's lots of other maps. We will have to poke around and see. Of course, we did not get a Storm Piece. Imagine that. Double drop rates, but double 0. 2 times 0 still equals 0. In the juice world of RNG, anyway. But anyway, that will do it for now, y'all. If you like the PDS, just use them. They're still very usable. Yeah, the range nerf sucks. The DU cost sucks. But still usable defense if you like to use it. But that will get it for now. Thanks an absolute ton for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you soon. Take it easy.